There's no way Sam Bennett can walk around Boston right now. As they said on the TNT panel, the dude is enemy number one for Bruins faithful right now, and I get it. Last game, he hits Marchand. You see his fist come up. It looks a lot like a punch to me, and to a lot of people, Marchand is now out for at least tonight's game and probably one more under the concussion protocol. Then tonight, he'd score a very controversial tying goal against the Bruins as Florida put them in a 3-1 series hole. All right, so first off, Swayman pushes to the left. The puck is sort of bouncing around in front of the net. As it's coming towards his side, Bennett pushes Coyle into Swayman before jumping on the loose puck and putting it in the net. So the rule at play here is obviously goaltender interference, or with the NHL rule book, Rule 69, calls interference on the goalkeeper. There are a couple important things you should know here. For one, it doesn't matter that Bennett pushed a player on the Bruins. According to 69.1, if a defending player has been pushed, shoved, or fouled by an attacking player so as to cause the defending player to come into contact with his own goalkeeper, such contact shall be deemed initiated by the attacking player for the purposes of this rule. Goes on to say, if necessary, this can count as a penalty or a disallowed goal. So when I'm reading the rule, you've got to consider when I say attacking player, that also includes a player pushed by the attacker. Just because there was contact, however, doesn't mean it was a mistake. Let's look into the rule some more. And I've got to warn you, I'm going to get pretty into the weeds into this one because to me, it matters. Part of the problem with how NHL media works is that you've got commentators kind of spouting off, whether live during the broadcast or on a panel later, without actually saying what the rule is. And that creates misconceptions which persist basically indefinitely, especially because often they have a half idea of what the rule is or a completely wrong one. Anyway, Rule 38.11 actually lays out exactly how to deal with interference on the goalkeeper challenges. In the case that the attacking team is challenging an on-the-ice no-goal call, the test is whether 1. There was no contact, 2. The attacking player was pushed or fouled by the defending player, or 3. That the attacking player's position within the crease did not impair the goalkeeper's ability to defend his goal and, in fact, had no discernible impact on the play. Bit of a weird one because in my mind, that's actually a somewhat modified test from what we get within the goaltender interference rule generally. And if in cases like this, it's the defending team challenge, 38.11 says that you defer to the rules as described in 69.1, 69.3, and 69.4. Those rules are quite broad because they cover a variety of situations from a goaltender being hit behind the net to sort of an over-aggressive screen. But the rule says, as a general principle, goals should be disallowed if an attacking player, either by his position or contact, and I'll note that includes, again, an attacking player who pushes a defending player, impairs the goalkeeper's ability to move freely within his crease, or initiates intentional or deliberate contact inside or outside the crease, which is actually a completely different avenue. If you think Sam Bennett purposefully pushed the defending player into the goalkeeper, that's actually goalkeeper interference, full stop. Continue saying the overriding rationale of this rule is that a goalkeeper should have the ability to move freely within his crease without being hindered by the actions of an attacking player. If an attacking player enters the crease and by his actions impairs the ability to defend his goal and a goal is scored, it will be disallowed. That is reiterated by 69.3, which is actually the specific rule detailing how goals are disallowed. And it also includes an exception within 69.7, stating that in a rebound situation where a goalkeeper and attacking players are simultaneously attempting to play a loose puck, which I think applies to this situation, incidental contact will be permitted and any goal that is scored as a result will be allowed. So, with a sort of idea of the framework for the test, how do we apply that to the facts at hand? Well, in my opinion, this is clearly a fairly egregious missed call. Bennett clearly pushes the defending player into Swayman, and although we don't need to prove this, Swayman had a chance to stop the puck. Again, the rules don't say that he had to have been likely to stop the puck or anything like that. The only real case like that where you can waive away the penalty is if it's basically completely away from the play and had no effect on it whatsoever. Here, look at it from the top-down view. Swayman is pushing off the post towards the puck. He is impaired clearly as he's pushed back by his own player, and that violates pretty much every single principle of the rule. This was not incidental contact, which is basically defined as contact not really affecting the play, which happens in the course of doing another action. For that, you'd have to decide that this goal was predestined. There was literally nothing he could possibly hope to do. He couldn't dive. He couldn't move his stick out. Anything. No, I mean, to me, that's not the case. This is a clear push of a player into the goaltender, impairing the goaltender's ability to move freely within his crease and stop the puck. It doesn't matter that a penalty wasn't called on the ice. It doesn't have to be. That's actually a completely separate issue. To me, this was a massive, massive mistake, and it may not have cost the game for Boston. Like, they played pretty poorly overall. I think Florida deserved to win this, but these are the playoffs. Anything can happen. I mean, Boston was up at this point. The only way that this call makes sense to me is if the Situation Room didn't think that Bennett actually pushed Charlie Coyle into the goaltender, that Coyle did it himself or allowed himself to be pushed. But if you read the description of the coach's challenge released by the NHL's PR team, it says that the contact with Jeremy Swayman did not prevent Swayman from playing his position in the crease prior to Bennett's goal. In law, you have what's called a reasonableness standard, and it's usually pretty easy to meet. Is your decision defensible in any real way? If a reasonable person could come to that conclusion or at least follow the logic, usually you've met it. Here, clearly incorrect. It's not reasonable to say that Jeremy Swayman was prevented from playing his position within the crease because he is trying to push off the post and go the other way, and he's stopped by the body of the player. So yeah, bad call. You know, normally I think the Situation Room, despite what a lot of fans think and despite generally a misunderstanding of the rules from fans, does a great job at handling cases like these, especially complex ones. This was not one, though. This was one of the worst calls I've ever seen, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong and there's some little section in the rule book, but I don't think so. Let me know your thoughts down below.